her to feel understood, because the underdogs to help her power.
Her path to power. Hello and welcome to Her Path to Power. I'm your host, Avni Bansal, and I'm delighted to be joined today by an instrumental voice in legal and democratic reforms in the Middle East. We have with us here today Sanaa al-Sarghali. She is Palestine's first woman to hold a PhD in constitutional law. Sanaa, what an amazing achievement.
Thank
To be the first woman to be a constitutional expert, I can only imagine what it feels like.
The range of Sanaa al-Sarghali's achievements should act as a reminder to each of you graduating today that you too can be successful with commitment and dedication. In reaching for success, we hope that you will make the most of your Lancaster qualifications, not only to better yourselves, but also to benefit your families, your university, and the wider communities in which you live and work. Pro-Chancellor, it is my honour to present Sanaa al-Sarghali for the award of Outstanding Alumna of the Year.
And to top that, Sanaa is also part of the Palestinian Constitution Drafting Committee. It's an absolute honor to host you here today, Sanaa. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
you, Avni. It's an honor to be hosted by you. I think it's amazing to be surrounded by inspiring women such as you. Thank you.
That's very kind of you.
Thank you.
So, Sanaa, take us to your childhood. You know, you're coming from Palestine. I know that even today, the challenges for women in Palestine are very high. The systemic barriers are very high. So what was it like in Palestine when you were growing up? And from there to taking up constitutional law, how did that come about?
Well, I come from a city in the north called Tulkarem. So it's a very nice city. People there are very much devoted to education. As many Palestinian at the time, I was born in 1987, so you can calculate my age now, which is the first uprising. So I'm the generation of the first uprising, first Intifada. I went to schools and, of course, the kindergarten in Tulkarem. I lived the times of the curfews. I lived the times where we had to study a curriculum that is not our own, to read about other nations' history. As a Palestinian, I think reading was my, let's say, my window to the world at the time. So I had a very amazing father, God bless his soul. He actually had a small library in our house. So I remember when I was a young kid, when I started learning English, he gave me my first book in English, which was a very challenging book. It was Out of Place for Edward Said, to understand the meaning of being Palestinian.
What was the book called?
Out of Place. It's not maybe the most famous book of Edward Said, because everybody reads Orientalism and all, but for me that book was very special, because Out of Place is about understanding what it does really mean to be Palestinian in this world. And I think reading that book at the time really changed the way I think of things. And now that we're recording this in South Africa, as many Palestinians, again, like I told you, I was born in 1987. I went to school in the early 90s. And I remember even when the Palestinian Authority arrived in 1994, and then they came to Tulkarem in 1995, my dad put me on his shoulder, and we went to see the arrival of Yasser Arafat at the time. And that was very, very kind of a special moment for me as a kid. But before even the arrival of the Palestinian Authority in my city, in Tulkarem, we had a very small public library, right? And the first books that they had were kind of like small novels and small stories, little stories for kids to read. And that book that my dad gave me, it changed the way I think about me as Palestinian. But being here in Johannesburg is very special, because the first little story or short story I've read also as a kid was in Arabic, the translation. I don't know what it is in English because it was translated to Arabic. It's called The Road to Johannesburg.
Oh, wow.
Right? And I remember why it was so special, because I was part of this team, because at the time we didn't have, before the arrival of the Palestinian Authority, we didn't have a Ministry of Education or anything. There was this organization, Palestinian organization, that was encouraging Palestinian young kids to read. It's about how to keep your identity alive by reading, by education. And the more books you read, the more points you get, and you are eligible for a passport of reading, because we didn't have our own passports. So I remember that kind of that was the motivation for me to read and to know. And that book, that little story, The Road to Johannesburg, was my final story to be upgraded to the next passport. It was the first novel, short story that is not about the Arab world, etc., but it was the first one I read from the Arab world, but the final one that got me the approval to be upgraded to the next reading passport. So I think
it must feel like such a full circle.
Yes.
To read The Road to Johannesburg, and then to be here in Johannesburg.
Yeah, so it's kind of, if you ask me about myself, I think it's very hard I think it's very hard to talk about yourself, of course. But I can tell you, I was a Palestinian girl that grew up in Tulkarem, studied in public schools, appreciating the teachers, the devotion that they had for their students at the time. I remember because it was extreme times and difficult times during my, let's say, my elementary years times and my primary times at school. The teachers would allocate extra time to teach us how to draw the map of Palestine, to teach us the names of the indigenous cities. I don't think anybody can, of course they understand the situation, but it's the feeling of it. Sometimes you look back and you think, is this actually something that happened in my life? Because sometimes you look back and you think, as Palestinians, you had so many traumas. And among them is really this process, the process of how to keep going and keep your identity alive among everything. So I think, yes, I was a young girl, studied in Tulkarem. Then later on, I went to the university, at Al-Najah University.
That's where you're teaching now, and
yes,
you're also the UNESCO chair for human rights, peace and democracy.
Yes.
So you went to that university and now you're teaching there. Okay.
I went to Al-Najah University, and it's one of the things I'm so proud about. It's the fact that it's the biggest university in Palestine. It's a university that is located in the north. It kind of holds very special place in my heart, because it started not as a university. It started as a primary school, then later on became a university, and it's now actually one of the biggest universities in Palestine. It has a teaching hospital. It's a fantastic success story. So I went there, and of course I come from a family that they're all pharmacists. So the first thing that I had in mind was
learn medicine, become a doctor.
To do. But actually, it was my family, my dad and my mom, that they said to me, "No, you do have a different personality. You've always had that." And when I was a teenager, my dad decided, well, as a pharmacist, but he decided to invest in a TV station.
Okay.
In Tulkarem, in my hometown. And he was thinking that media is the future. And because of that, and because of my mom, who's a very, very powerful lady, I would say, and this is why I always say I want to thank my dad and my mom for choosing each other. Because I was raised in a family that I could see that you can be a powerful woman and you can be a successful, powerful man, and it works.
You saw those as role models.
It works. It works, and you can support each other. So my mom was also a pharmacist, but at the time when my elder sister was born, there was no kindergarten in my city. So she invested in a kindergarten, and we all actually studied there. We all graduated from that kindergarten.
Right.
And my friends, my colleagues, that they are now some of them are judges, teachers, doctors, they all graduated from there. And that kindergarten was very much focusing on how to shape the personality, more than, you have to learn, you have to read. No, it was about really giving the child the ability to speak up.
And the confidence.
Yes, the confidence to talk. Then my dad later on, as I said, like he wanted to invest in this local TV station that is now one of the most successful TV stations in Palestine, that also has a radio and all. And they both pushed me to kind of like into the media, into doing certain training. So I ended up, when I was 18 and 19, doing a TV, local TV show. It was about changing the stereotypical image of Palestinian women in the media. Of course, kind of like this kind of push from the family makes you see things differently, makes you see the world differently. So when I wanted to do my undergraduate studies, they were telling me, you don't have to do what we are doing. You have a different personality. Just sit and think of what you want. And I've always been driven to laws and legal protection. And I thought, and as I told you, reading like Edward Said and being influenced by so many thinkers, I said, okay, you know what? I went to the law school at al-Najah and I just audited a class. And I graduated
a law class.
A law class.
Right.
And I spoke with the law professors there. And for some reason, I felt like I fit so well. That's really my place. And I did my high school degree from the scientific sector. So usually when you do scientific sector and you get a high grade, you do like to study scientific things. But no, I felt like I totally fit. I don't care if they call me doctor, whatever. But this is where I see myself. And I went there. I had the best 4 years of my life. I met amazing people. I enjoyed studying law. I never actually memorized anything, even though law is all about memorizing sometimes. I felt understanding law really means so much to me, means so much to me as Palestinian.
How did you think studying law changed you as a person? Like what in you changed?
The way I think, I guess, the way I see things, the way I understand things, and the fact that when I start like understanding law, I start understanding how we as Palestinians, we need it. So I loved, like contract law. I loved when we did the constitutional law. It was actually, constitutional law was not, it was the most challenging topic for me.
Yes.
And I have to tell you why at the time. Because at the time we were studying constitutional law, we were studying the theories, we were studying like something that you don't live it, right? While criminal law, contract law is something that you see.
So all of these other laws apply to you.
Yeah.
And you're reading constitutional law, but you're wondering like, where is our constitution?
Where is like, yeah. But also it's like the theories and like the fact that you teach usually constitutional law about sovereign states and all of these kind of things and how the debate will take place. And in a context like Palestine, of course, I was one of those people who were fortunate to see the election of the first Palestinian Legislative Council and the second one. I was very young when the first Legislative Council got elected. I was, old enough to be like to understand the second elections and all, but still it was kind of like abstract still for Palestinians to talk about constitutional law in the way that other nations would talk about it. So to be able to study it later on and to be able to practice it later on is really something that is very, very special to me. So this is kind of like very summary about where I am. But when I studied at al-Najah, as I told you, I was a very much passionate reader. I always had this love for novels, for Jane Austen and all. So of course I was very much fascinated with the English countryside and everything, Harry Potter, novels. So al-Najah invested very much in me. And I have to say, this is where I think sometimes when the support, you're not alone in this world. Maybe you are very good, maybe you excel in certain things, but you need the support and you need people to believe in you.
Yes.
You need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in yourself. But you need to believe you need to know that you need others to support you and believe in you.
Yes.
So I always
You got that support at
Yes.
Anasha.
I think there are always four things. First, you need good people around you, and I always had that. I had good family, good friends, good support, and you need this kind of support, and that support does not come unless you believe that you deserve it and you believe in yourself. And of course, you need to have this imagination and to think outside the box. And like the fourth thing, that you need to keep going regardless of the obstacles. So when I did my bachelor degree, there was no this kind of a program that the top students will get a scholarship from the university. So during my time, for the university decided that they're gonna support the top students at their faculty. So I graduated top of my class and top of my faculty.
Wow.
And in that year, Najah decided to invest in those students, to send them as a new ambassadors to be the new generation of teachers at the university.
Right.
And I always thought, and I always said to my friends, I'm gonna do like my postgrad studies in the UK. That's my dream, And they were like, okay, Sanaa, you're such a dreamer. You're always a dreamer. And I was always like that. I always see things in a very dreamy lens. And I always believe in the best. And I think at the time I had a very good dean, right? And he came to me and he said, look, we just approved this in the Dean's Council, in the Board of the Trustees Council, and we think you fit perfectly. And I said, can I go and study in the UK? He said to me, actually, the scholarship is for the UK.
Oh, wow.
So I applied to Durham University, and I didn't know the ranking of Durham at the time. I looked at the programs, and when I called them, they put me on hold, and I know we should not say this, but it was Harry Potter music, and I said, it's meant to be. It's meant to be. And I just applied, and I got in. And I studied there, and I did my dissertation about freedom of expression in emerging states, the case study Palestine. And I wanted to stay in Durham, I have to say. But then my head of the university, who's now the head of the board of the trustees, the vice head of the board of the trustees, and he was the previous prime minister, he studied at Lancaster University. And I think I had the courage. I remember I had the courage at the time, and I wrote him an email and I said, I think I would like to continue my PhD studies. I think Najah University Law School deserves a female PhD holder, and I would love to do that. I don't know where this kind of courage came from, but I think when I finished my master's degree and I saw that, okay, this is great, I could do more, and when I did my dissertation, I was like, okay, I should not do only, because I wanted to do media law, and in the conversation with my dean, he was like, no, you should do constitutional law, and I was like, you know what, I was always crying in my constitutional law courses because I never really understood them that much, so you want me to do constitutional law?
Yes.
So yes, I had the courage to write this email, and I don't know from where I guess I know from where this courage came from. It came from being raised in a family where appreciates your individuality, respects the fact that you can raise your voice and it's okay, in a respectful way, and believing in yourself and what you can achieve. So I wrote that email
what was the response?
to His Excellency at that time. He, he was the head of the university. As I said, he was a previous prime minister. He wrote to me. And he said, Sanaa, I think, yes, we will support you. But we just signed an agreement with Lancaster University, and I think you should do it there. It was my previous university. Get an acceptance, and we will support that as a university. Because I always believed that there should be a full PhD holder, a female PhD holder, teaching the students at the Najah. I was taught by amazing women, practitioners at the university. Most of them, they were teaching, but none of them held a PhD. So we had to call them Miss instead of doctor. And believe me, that kind of stick in the mind of
the
student.
Students.
Yes. So I like I applied to Lancaster, I got accepted very quickly. I went back to Palestine. I taught with my master's degree 1 semester in order to design my PhD proposal. And I remember at the time it was very challenging because I wanted to design something that speaks to the future state. What would the future constitution of the future Palestinian state would look like?
Right.
And that required lots of reading, lots of preparation, lots of talking. And I loved it. I mean, of course, now it sounds very easy, but it was extremely difficult. I went to Lancaster University. I remember sitting in that library, reading about Palestine, the refugees, and crying for hours, thinking how I can manage that, how to put it, where is the right direction, reading the theories.
And there are so many complex issues.
Yes, too
what
many
do you
layers.
prioritize? What do you want to focus on?
Exactly.
It's almost like you're thinking about a blueprint for the future of all of Palestine.
Yes. So it was very difficult. It was not easy, It was not easy. And I've been always also, I had like colleagues that were great, but their question at the time was valid, like you're designing something for a pre-sovereign, for something that, like on paper it exists, on reality it's very challenging. So you're really going to spend 4 or 5 years of your life doing that. And of course, sometimes when you do PhD, like it's a very lonely process sometimes. And to think about these topics, to also give, of course, your 20s to that, it was quite a commitment, but a commitment that I believe the more I read about it, the more I became more involved in it, the more I believed in it. And I don't want to sound very idealistic or, like I'm an angel, I believe in all of this. No, but it was really like so important. But again, it did not come in a moment of time. That was a build up. The role of the family in building up your personality. Being proud of your identity, knowing your place as a Palestinian, later on as an academic, knowing that you have a role to play, and what role to play. Of course, you cannot play all the roles, but you have to find the place where you fit and where you can be productive.
And
that was my journey of how I did my
And
PhD.
it's very interesting because, you can never connect the dots, looking forward. It's only looking backwards. So then you realize that all of that work during the PhD, you can now put it into use because you're also now, a member of the drafting committee of Palestine's constitution. So tell us a little bit more about that role. What is the process like? Like in India, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, we call him Baba Sahib Ambedkar, was a person who came from the Dalit caste. So it was a caste which was treated very badly. There are still several challenges around the caste issues in India. And so he took that and said, he went and studied a constitution and then came back to India. And then he was the chair of the drafting committee of the Indian Constitution. So he tried to see, all right, how do I design a constitution of India where caste does not play a role? Now, of course, there is still work to be done on ground even today after so many years of having the constitution in effect. But there's something about the blueprint and the design. So now as you start thinking about the constitution of Palestine, what is the process like? Who's drafting it and how are they deciding on that? And are there some priorities? And particularly, is there a gender lens that you bring to the constitution process? So your own story and your own journey, how are you hoping that would reflect in some ways in the constitution of Palestine?
Oh, well, thank you for the questions. And I think, let's put it like this. My own story, I think I wanted to deliver a few key messages from it. One, the importance of education for women, right? Secondly, the importance of the support of families for women and of women. The key roles that certain educators and teachers and people can play in your journey, which happened to me. And also the importance of having good higher educational institutions, right, that can shape the young minds. So let's put that there. Then I came back, of course. And to be in the drafting committee, it did not come just like this. I went back, then it happened.
Sure.
Before that, I have to acknowledge the work that has been done with the civil society actors and organizations. So when I came back to Palestine, And as I mentioned to you, I'm very proud of my mother, who was a pharmacist and later on did the kindergarten. And also, she was very much involved with other women in establishing and founding Women Media Development. It's an NGO that was actually very much involved about the changing the stereotypical image of Palestinian women in the media,
Right.
taking into consideration everything I mentioned to you. But also, they were very, very much working with younger generation like myself, right? And when I came back, I worked with TAM, Women Media and Development NGO. And together I had the conversation with them that, look, I did PhD in constitutional law. I think I would like, I mean, of course, I was fortunate, let's be realistic. I was fortunate that I had this opportunity. And of course, when I did my PhD, I didn't know I will come back and Palestinians will be celebrating the fact that I am the first PhD.
person to
Yeah,
hold
but that was,
PhD.
of course, I think, like it could have been any other Palestinian woman. It
Right.
just, it's a matter of luck, combination of so many things,
Right.
which I'm very appreciative for that. And for also people acknowledging that, like yourself and my fellow Palestinians. But when we came back, I also wanted to, because I had that opportunity, I wanted to give some of what I've learned and that opportunity that I had and others didn't have to my students, to other females that
You
we
want
work
to pass
with.
on
Of course, and I
and
think
build
this
a
is
culture.
so important. So together with TAM, and of course with other NGOs like Miftah and others, we designed the civic education campaign.
Right.
My constitution should include me.
Yes.
That was the title. My constitution should include me. And at the time, we're talking about 2019 when we did that campaign. At the time, there was no recognition, this wave of recognition of the state of Palestine. There was no conversation about an interim constitution, nothing like that. And it was very close. We started in 2019, we finished in 2022. So even the time of COVID, we were working on it. The idea of this civic education campaign was the fact that there will be a moment for Palestinians to draft their constitution, to talk about a constitution for a state. So let's start educating the younger generations about the right to vote, the importance of having constitutional protection in certain things. Even when we talk about, protection for women, we listened from your amazing panel about the online, violence towards women leaders and all. So in order to have this kind of laws, you need a constitutional protection, right? In order to have all these kind of conversations, the young generations, they should know about these things. So my constitution should include me, involved so many different actors. We produced also short educational movies that can be accessible to normal Palestinians, to everyday Palestinians. They don't have to be academics, they don't have to be like students at the university.
Yeah, simplifying
the topic, because as I told you, even when I was a student at the university, it was a hard topic for me. So I think, so it did not come just in one night. It was like a process to be involved in such things. And again, as I told you, this is not a process for one person. It was a process that involved different actors. So now that I'm sitting in this committee, I don't think of myself as Sanaa sitting in that committee. I think of myself as Sanaa that sits in that committee, but also speaks on behalf of all those amazing women that supported me also to do the amazing things such as the civic education campaign, which was also supported by my university, which was supported at the time by also all constitutional experts, males and young females who were working in that field. The constitutional civic campaign was targeting Palestinians, young ones in the West Bank and in Gaza at the time. And at the time, in 2019 and 2022, we were not allowed to go to Gaza even. So now people talk about Gaza as the open air prison, and the West Bank is an open air prison. But even at the time, we were not even allowed as West Bankers to go to Gaza. So the way we did it was, even before COVID, was through online means. So when COVID happened, we used everything we had. We used Zoom, we used Teams in order to have this kind of conversations. So now that I'm sitting in that committee, I really appreciate all the conversations that took place. So why Palestine, first of all, need an interim constitution? I think this is something I wrote a lot about it in 2024 when the war was in its peak. I think when we talk about interim constitution, we're talking about that
So
stage.
just to tell our audience, just a little bit of context, that many member states of the United Nations have recognized Palestine,
Yeah.
but that Palestine is still not a full-fledged,
Yeah.
recognized state as
Yeah.
part of the United Nations.
Yeah.
But you do have now interim government in place, and you're in the process of drafting an interim constitution. Would that be right to say, or what would be your understanding?
Well, okay, so basically, like, we have a Palestinian Authority.
Right.
We have the Palestine Liberation Organization. That is the bigger umbrella. And of course, we had our own, of course, to be fair in our analysis, we did have the political fragmentation in 2007 after the second elections, and of course this all comes when you have and when you live in occupation, under occupation,
Right.
where Palestinians are still holding different identification cards. So when you live in the West Bank, you have a green ID. When you live in Gaza, you have a green ID, but the rights for those holders are different. When you live in East Jerusalem, you do have a blue ID that got changed later on. But of course, you do have, like, it looks or it sounds it's a bit freer, but it's really not. So you do have this political division, geographical division. When the Palestinian state got recognized, well, there is the symbolic announcement of the state in 1988 by the Palestine Liberation Organization. Then later on, we had the 2012 recognition by the UN General Assembly. But then you had the New York Declaration,
which is the most current one in 2024.
That is very much, we cannot divide it and disconnected it from the advisory board or the advisory decision of the ICJ about the occupation and the fact that it should end, etc., etc. But the New York Declaration was talking about that it's really now the time for a Palestinian state to be recognized, and you had so many major countries such as France, UK supporting it. But it was a conditional recognition.
Yes.
Right. So there are things for the Palestinians which we can talk about it for hours.
Yes.
For Palestinians to do. So this Palestinian interim constitution will be the base for the elections that the Palestinian Authority committed to do. That there will be elections 1 year after the end of the war. Right. And I think the way I wrote about the interim constitution during the war was the fact that Palestinians at some point they will need constitutional tools to shape their future. They will be the main agent in shaping their future, because everybody was talking within the war and the genocide and everything. And I use the word genocide now because it's as an academic, I was very careful even to use it. Put aside that I'm Palestinian, I was always careful to use it. But now that it is kind of like by the association of the Genocide Association, the expert of Genocide Association, and the UN is using it. Now we can use it, and nobody says that you're not being, academic by using it.
Right.
And I think this is kind of like very important to show and to say. So
what is the stage at which the interim constitution is?
So the way I wrote about it in the past, even in 2004 and before that, is the fact that Palestinians, they would need tool and interim because there are so many things that are still not finalized.
Right.
Including that you still have war, you still have occupation. We're talking about a state under occupation. Right? We're talking about the state under occupation. We're not talking about full sovereign state like in other contexts. So what happened is that when this recognition of the New York Declaration occurred and the Palestinian leadership announced that there will be an interim constitution committee, because you do have, as I said, the Palestine Liberation Organization, that it has its own legal charter, which is the Palestinian National Charter. Then you have the Palestinian Authority, which is the self-governing authority, that it has its own legal mandate, which is the Palestinian Basic Law that the first elected legislative council drafted. Then you do have the Palestinian state that could recognize, right? That does not have any legal mandate or legal document yet. So that interim constitution is filling this gap. Right? But we're writing a constitution, an interim one, for a state under occupation still. It's
Yes.
a
No,
pre-sovereign.
I think we absolutely
Yes.
understand and appreciate that.
So
Yes.
basically, this constitution or this drafting process is very interesting because it's about not the content, about the process itself. So for me, the process is as valuable as the drafting,
Yes.
as the content.
Yes.
And sometimes, I love this saying: the road, like reaching your destination, the
Is-
road that you take
is more
as exciting,
as important as the destination.
exciting, as important as reaching the destination. So the way we did it is the fact that the committee itself was divided into subcommittees.
Okay.
And the subcommittees, they had consultation with different groups. So for example, the committee about rights and duties, they had consultations with civil society actors. Civil society actors would submit, like articles about what they
Sure.
want. And of course, like what you are doing now is producing zero draft. That's even not even the first draft. And this draft will be open to consultation.
Right.
So I was heading the subcommittee for the preamble, the basic principles, and this is also a very interesting, subcommittee because you're talking about the philosophy of this constitution. Why you're drafting it now? What does it mean for Palestinians?
Right.
So
are you in the process of consulting constitutions from around the world as you're drafting
there will be
it?
a moment.
Right.
I mean, of course, I'm not in a position to speak on behalf of the committee because our decisions are jointly.
Sure.
And we actually, the first thing we did was drafting bylaws in order to govern the work of the committee,
Right.
which is something I thought very professional and very
But I'm very, very curious to ask, how was it decided who's going to be in the drafting committee?
So, okay, this is a very valid question. And I will be very frank with you. So it's an appointed committee.
Right.
And when it's an appointed committee, the second question, because I know you're also a constitutional lawyer, you will ask where is its legitimacy coming from? Of course, I mean this is a very valid question. So it's an appointed committee, and because it's an appointed committee, the process really matters.
Yes.
You cannot afford like having elections now, but elections will happen.
Yes.
I'm talking about like general elections.
Yes.
So the fact that it's an appointed committee, every step of the way for the work of the committee matters, such as public participation, consultation, talking to Palestinians from different, positions, actors, speaking to the younger generation. All these things really matter for the work of this committee. At the end of the day, this committee will produce a document that Palestinians will also have to see and consult and be consulted on.
Right.
And this kind of work is really going to shape the next stage.
Yes. Yes.
So of course there will be many processes before
Yes.
it's finalized.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I think it's a pure Palestinian work, right? So where does the kind of like conversation with other countries and all? As I said, this is kind of left for the committee to decide, but part of the things that this committee believes in is, of course, partnerships, conversations, but the work itself is a pure Palestinian.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? And I think this is very beautiful. And I have to say, this has been one of the most amazing learning and empowering experiences I've ever been to. Now going back to your point about where women and where women's rights fell in this process, I have to say that I'm very happy with how the conversation is going, with the consultations that have been done, and the language of the document. It's very much engendered language.
Can we hope to see a gender balanced and equitable constitution whenever we have the draft, which is shared in the public domain, in a way that women will get equal rights to men? Is that
Well, of
valid
course,
hope?
I don't think anybody would deny the role of Palestinian women
Right.
as major actors in everything, in public life, in the political struggle, in education, in as mothers, as founding mothers as well, which is something I have to say. If you look at the Palestinian the declaration document, it was acknowledged, but of course it was written by a very prominent poet, Mahmoud Darwish, at the time. But I think this draft constitution is really taking into consideration.
How many
this
women?
part.
How many women do we have in the drafting committee, all in all?
Yeah, you do have to.
Right.
You have to.
Out of how many?
Out of 17 members.
Okay.
So you have to. I have Her Excellency. She's, one of the most respectful judges. She's the Vice President for the High Council, the Judiciary House, the High Judiciary Council, and she's a great lady. But the thing is that, as I said, I don't consider myself alone in this process, or we're only two.
Yes.
Even though, of course, you need numbers matter.
Yes.
And I do hope, this is why I really hope there will be more constitutional experts in Palestine.
Yes.
Of course, as you said, I'm very proud that you refer to me as the first, but I don't think this is something we should celebrate. We should always encourage others to have this specialization.
Absolutely.
And
It's a beginning.
And I believe in the specialization. I believe you earn your spot because of the work that you do. So I really hope others can do that. So I think the document is going to reflect, and if there is something that is not going well, I think it's always the ability to change, because it's a draft. It's not the final.
But I can almost feel, Sanaa, the pressure on your shoulders, right? Because I can feel that you're in the process of making history.
Well,
Right, like while I was speaking to you, I was like, it's almost like going back to time and saying, when Indian Constitution was being drafted, imagine having a conversation with somebody who would have been there. So it's like you've always almost taken me back on a time machine. And I can imagine that, being two women on a committee of 17 must be hard, but it must also come with a lot of responsibility and pressure.
Yeah, it is. And I have to tell you, so my aunt, she's, she used to be a teacher. She's one of the people that I respect a lot. She taught me Arabic, because she was an Arabic teacher. She taught me the grammars and all. And my aunt is not involved in politics. She's not involved, in legal anything, studies or whatever. But I was going outside my house when I was going to a drafting committee meeting, and then my aunt stops me and she said, because she was visiting us, and she says, Sanaa, are we going to be safe in this constitution? And I never thought my aunt would ask me such a question. I never imagined that my aunt would ask me such a question. And I told her, yes, I think so. She told me, you sure? And I told her, Amto, that's in Arabic. Amto, what do you know about the constitutions and all? She told me, I was reading about it since they appointed you. I was reading about it. And please, like this, please.
Take care of us.
Take care of us. And I told her, yes, but it's not only me. I think really, I think Palestinian women are amazing.
Yes, but in that moment
they take care of each other, they take care of each other.
Yes.
So I have to say I am lucky
Yes.
to be there, and because I appreciate being there,
Yes.
I think I have to say my voice is respected in that committee. I have to say that. But because I appreciate that the seats, of course, it's sad that the seats are limited. And this is a reality everywhere. I teach a course about women participation in constitution making.
Yes.
Of course, we to touch upon the world, but we focus very much on the Arab world. But we also do comparative analysis. And I'm actually, in G20, I am accompanied with one of my amazing students.
Yes, we met her, and it was amazing to meet her. And it was very amazing, I have to tell you this, Sanaa, to see that you're doing something phenomenal, which is that not only are you in being these places of power, but that you're already active to creating the second rung of leadership. So the fact that, you brought your student to see what's happening here at G20, to my mind, is amazing, because not only do we need to do what we are doing, we need to document it for the future, and we already need to be thinking of the girls, who we are going to hold hands and say, we are here, and you rise up and, get up on our shoulders and see farther than we can see. That's how,
well, thank
we
you
will
for
all
saying that.
grow.
But first of all, I wish, it happened to me, but I wish women do this to other women.
Yes.
First of all, I always say, Alex deserves to be here.
Yes.
She's an outstanding student. She represents her class at Sciences Po, where I teach at the moment as a visiting professor. And she's wonderful. She has been a great help. And I wanted her to see this for three things. first of all, I have to say, when I had the conversation with Suki, with the, like Better Politics Foundation, they were also very happy. And that tells you a lot
Yes.
about how women think. Women should support other women.
Yes.
Women should pave the way to other women.
Yes.
And I would never been able to be in different places without the support of other women.
Yes.
I met Suki, I met you because of Suki, I met Suki and Suyan and Kulmina and all of because in the Women Drafter in International Idea, my dear friend Sharon Hickey recommended me to go to that meeting where I met them.
Yes,
Then-
it's just like
yeah,
you're
it's a
moving from
circle. It's a
meeting
circle.
to
I was
meeting
mentored.
and meeting women.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was mentored by amazing women. I was mentored by this amazing South African professor, Christina Mori, that she was my mentor. She helped in the interim drafting, the drafting of the interim constitution
Yes.
of South Africa. Then Susan Williams, and then Adrienne Stone. I was mentored by amazing women, right? Then this is how the world should be. This is how women should pave
Yes.
the way to other women.
Yes.
So bringing Alex and before her when we were in International Idea to bring other women, it's really, I don't think of it as me doing something extraordinary.
Yes.
I'm just doing what I should do in my position. That's my role as an educator, as an
Yes.
academic, and as a human being and
Yes.
as a woman,
Yes.
right? And I think this is what we all should do to each other. You having this podcast, shedding light on different voices, and thank you for hosting
Yeah.
me. I don't think I'm one of
No,
the leaders,
no.
but honestly, what you're doing,
No, your voice
It's-
is
it's-
important,
it's-
Sanaa.
it's so
and your voice
important.
needs to reach out.
yeah, it's really so important to understand that the seats are limited for women, but we should not compete.
Yes. We should pull
not,
each other
we
up.
should not really fight each other.
Yes.
Again, numbers matter. Yes, equality and like what you bring to the table matter, but we should not stop talking about numbers.
Yes.
But when the numbers are limited and the seats are limited, we should not fight each other. We know that you are in that
No,
position.
we need to
should support.
and we need
should
to
support,
increase
yeah,
the seats,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yes,
on that
yeah,
point of
yeah,
sisterhood, and
yeah.
in fact, I like that you said that it's not something to be proud that I'm the first
Yeah.
person, right? Because
Well,
and-
I'm proud, but I don't celebrate it that much anymore.
No, of course.
Yes.
But in a patriarchal setup, women are made to compete with each other.
Yeah.
That there are limited seats,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And yesterday, I was in a conversation with somebody, and she said, "Why are we thinking, outside the box? Let's just dismantle the box altogether."
Yeah.
So if anybody tells us, there are few seats, no, let's increase the seats,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
And in any case, women who are listening to us and men who are listening to us, it is not a happy thing to be the only woman in the room.
Yeah, no,
you
no,
want
no,
more
no,
women,
no,
you
yeah,
more
yeah.
you want more young people, right? So on that note of sisterhood, let's get into a rapid fire round. So I'm just gonna
But
shoot
can
some
I-
questions to you,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna have to ask for quick responses. Does that work?
But,
Should we?
Yeah, but may I just say something?
Sure. Please go on.
Just to go back, yes, I totally agree on everything that you mentioned. Which, by the way, women are allowed to disagree. Women are allowed to be different and to disagree on many, many things. But can I just go back to Palestinian women in particular? I think women issues are similar and different at the same time. And I really believe in solidarity and sisterhood a lot. And I believe that women are to be celebrated everywhere. And but I just want to now that you can see, I'm struggling to say it. Not because it's I cannot say it, but because it's very also emotional. I think Palestinian women and women everywhere are strong, but Palestinian women are facing a lot. So, yes, I am sitting here talking with you, but I want to acknowledge the power and the strength of Palestinian women in Gaza, in the West Bank, and everywhere, the things that they have to go through. This is why I think when you are fortunate to be in places, you should not take it as granted, at least for me as Palestinian. You are born with that chip on your shoulder, the responsibility, right? And to see what has been happening for the past 2 years. The reason why I think it's so important also to celebrate women leaders, but also women academics is so important. As a Palestinian woman academic, I also believe in the role that we can play, not in influencing the young generation of how they think, but how to see things, right? And I think when we talk about women protection, we also have to talk about the protection of women academics.
Yes.
In the past 2 years, we've lost so many academics, Palestinian academics. And I worry that we will lose more in the because of the situation, because of the war. So yes, the seats are limited, but for different reasons. But for Palestinian women, especially those who work in like crucial topics and sensitive topics, the barriers and the risks are higher. So I wanna acknowledge them.
No, thank you for
And
saying
say
that.
thank you for keep going regardless of everything.
Yes.
So, sorry to stop
No,
you on
no,
that, but
I think it was a very, very important to
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
So, okay, on that somber note,
And the
let's
wrap
just
up, yeah.
let's do the rapid fire.
Yeah.
Just to every woman out there, what's your one message?
Oof, there are so many messages, but the one message I can say, which is very quickly, is keep believing in yourself. There will be so many people that will try to put you down, but you have to believe in one person, and that person is you. That is not selfish, but you're allowed to believe in yourself and to keep believing in yourself. And the other thing, I know there are two messages, and to keep empowering yourself and others if you can. If you can, because sometimes you can't. Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge that Palestinian women are facing today?
Oh my God, so many things. The narratives around them sometimes. The just how to keep their mental health okay, and how to keep going, regardless of everything. There are so many challenges. Political, financial, educational. It's really like lots of layers to face. But I salute them. I look at my mom and I think, my God, she raised 5 different kids, and she keeps going. So, and I think of all the moms around the world, and especially those in Gaza, and I say, like, I don't know what they are facing. I cannot claim to know what they are thinking of. I don't know how they keep going, but they still keep going. Yeah.
Your one message to anybody watching this in India. Do you have an India story? Do you
God.
eat Indian food?
Yes.
Enjoy any movies?
Oh
What's
my
your
God.
Indian story?
Yeah, so before we're recording this, I think I was talking to your crew and they were, my God, how much do you know about Bollywood? I think Bollywood is one of the best things.
Who's your favorite actor
So many.
or actress?
But I have to tell you, we when I was young, and I think as many Palestinian young kids, my generation, every Thursday we would watch, and Friday, these are the 2 days where they would show Bollywood movie, like Indian movies, for 3-4 hours, as you would know. They are long movies. And we love them. So I love Bollywood. I love Shah Rukh Khan. I love Amitabh Bachchan, as everybody like in the Arab world loves them. Love them. We grew up. There was another actor. I can't remember his name now on the top of my head. But I love Kajol. I love who I love. We talked about her, Deepika.
Deepika Padukone.
Yes. My favorite movie, there are so many favorite movies. I love Kuchi Kuchi Hota Hai. I love Om Shanti Om, from the new ones. Not that new anymore. I think I love so many, like, because I love how Bollywood like can take you into
also a dreamy world.
Yeah,
right?
dreamy world, but so many things could happen in the movie, which is life. It's messy. It could be like you could be singing, you could be like sad at some point, but then so it's actually life.
Yes.
It's like life. Sometimes, of course, it could be very much not realistic, but it's life sometimes,
But I feel so bad. Like every time on this podcast, I'm asking, our guest about what do you know about Bollywood, right? But also, I don't know anything about like the Palestinian songs. Is there like a song or a line that you could hymn for all of us, like your favorite song?
Yes, and I have to say, I love the diversity of India. I love that whenever you meet an Indian person, you cannot expect that they are the same.
Yes.
And that's beauty that you should always keep.
No, that's also because you know so much about India, that you know that there are nuances and that all of us are.
No, and I also had so many, but it was always when I went to the UK and I met my Indian friends who I'm still very much in good contact with, and it was always like an icebreaker to talk about these things, for somebody to know a little bit about your culture. And I think this is maybe one of the advantages of growing in a place like Palestine, to know
Yes.
about other cultures
Yes.
and all. And so about Palestinian cinema is very rich. It's very beautiful.
So what's the one movie you would
I-
recommend all of us watching this? What's the one Palestinian
No,
movie all
not
of us
gonna-
should watch?
no, I'm not
I mean, I
gonna
know
say-
it's being unfair to say one,
yes,
but
I'm
like
not-
a few
I
maybe.
can recommend that there is every year there is like a week for Palestinian cinema. So I would recommend you to go and watch that. And
No,
I
but
can-
give us one or two movies.
I
Like, make
can't
it easy
because,
for us.
because
Like, say, okay, at least watch this movie for sure. Like, which
I
is your
can tell you a
favorite
few
movie?
things about Palestine.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you my favorite Palestinian artist, like painter, is Sliman Mansour. So my book, A State of Exception, we took his cover, his painting as a cover. And I remember the publishing house was like, oh, we cannot afford him. So I wrote to him, and he was like, of course you can take it.
Ah, nice.
And he gave it to me because he said, and I remember his word, he said, I'm so proud that you're writing a book. I was the main, I was co-editor, but he said, and I was also a contributor, and he said, I'm so proud that we have a Palestinian scholar in constitution.
Oh.
So he gave me his painting, and it became like
The cover of the book.
cover of the book. So he's an amazing one, and he is actually a living memory of all our history from 1987 onwards.
Okay.
I wish him all the best. Then secondly, I can tell you that we have Palestinian dabke, which is the traditional dance.
Okay.
And in Ramallah, there is a band called Sariyat Ramallah. I always go and watch them. And also in Arabic, Firqat al-Funun al-Shabiyya, they are amazing. I hope you can come to Palestine and watch them with me. I can tell you that we have Trio Jubran that they play oud, and I always watch them when they come abroad. And they brought different perspective to the Palestinian musicians, because whenever they are there, everybody goes there, and they are fantastic because they are composers. And I think Palestinian women artists and designers. So one of my good friends, Noura, she designs the Palestinian traditional dress in a new way, because that was recognized also by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage for Palestinians, and that was one of them. So there are so many things about Palestine. The food, the Palestinian knafe, which is the main Palestinian
That's becoming
dish.
very popular in India, I can tell you.
Yeah, but you do know. I think Palestinian knafe, by the way, is Nabulsi knafe, where I teach in Nablus, the city. And I'm not going to mention other things because there is like contradiction about where they come from. But this Palestinian knafe holds so much, place in my heart, because usually when I have friends coming over, we go to the old city in Nablus. They can see the tradition, the culture, and we eat knafe there. I have to tell you, one of the best things about Palestine is something I do with my mom, which is Palestinian za'atar. So that's a tradition. We make it at home, and that's actually my favorite gift to all my friends. So we do it at home. We do za'atar at home, and the smell of sesame thyme together reminds me of, or keeps reminding me of, the beauty of being Palestinian. So yeah.
That's so well said.
Yeah.
So can we just hold hands with your permission?
Yes.
And on
Sisterhood.
this sisterhood,
Yes.
and on this podcast, I want you to put out your biggest, boldest vision. So before we die in our lifetimes, what's the one change in the world that you want to see, Sanaa?
Oh my God. Okay, so when I was doing, and now you're gonna make me cry, but when of course, when I did my PhD, they were telling me that you're writing a project for something that will never exist. And one of my friends said, well, one day there will be a Palestinian state, but not in our lifetime. So I really hope I could see that day when I'm still alive.
Yeah.
And I can bring kids to this world where there is a Palestinian state that lives in peace and in harmony, and and it's okay to say I come from Palestine.
Yes.
Without causing anybody feeling, oh no, this is controversial or not. I think that's my biggest dream, to see a free Palestinian state. And I think we are entitled to say that, because Palestinians, as any nation in the world, as any people in the world, they deserve their own state, they deserve to live in peace. And I think if you believe that any oppressed nation in the world deserves to be respected and supported, then the Palestinian support is not against anything. It's a just case.
Yes.
Yeah, and as much as I respect Palestinian lives, I respect others' lives. And I think if you ask any Palestinian, they would say the same. So yeah. Thank you. That was so emotional. I didn't
I
expect
guess my
that.
tears have said it all.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for
Yeah,
watching and for
thank you.
joining this conversation.
Yeah.
And can you appeal to our audience that if
Thank
they
you.
like this conversation, they should share and subscribe to Her Path to Power? Could you make an appeal in your own words to everybody who's watching you today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for this lovely conversation that I did not expect it. It's so not planned. And I really wish that the way we talked about things is to be heard and understood in the way that they are. And my message to any young girl watching this, I think you should keep dreaming and believing in yourself, regardless if you are in India, if you're in Palestine. We should all believe in the power that women can do and women can bring when they support and believe in each other. I am very honored to be hosted by you and to be accompanied by one of my amazing students. And I wish one day I will be in the back seat, listening to her, taking the stage. And I think that's my message, that we can live in a world where we can live in harmony and peace and celebrate each other's achievements and successes without feeling threatened or feared that somebody else will take that spot.
And can you tell our audience to like, share, and subscribe
Of
Her
course.
Path to Power?
Of course, Her Path to Power. It's my favorite podcast and my favorite host.
Thank
and
you.
I think it's amazing how you make your guests feel so at ease. And the fact that you listen, and I think this is another message. The more we listen, the more we learn. Yeah. So thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Her Path to Power.